Okay, Chapter 6, The Camp. After finishing his bowl of soup and eating a handful of sinkers, Gus felt full and sleepy. "Come on now, Gus," said Addie. "Tommy's counting on you to come out to the barn. He's barn boss, you know, and it's his duty to take care of the horses and stables. He's got a couple of hay burners down there called Dick and Jim, and they are two fine animals if I've ever saw any." "Hay burners? What's that?" "They're the biggest horses you'll ever see." "Horses?" thought Gus. "I like horses." Gus took a tin bowl and dipped it in the hot, steaming water and stood over the pot on the back of the stove and watched it clean. "That's good, Gus. I see you're catching on the rules around here," said Addie, and she went back up to organizing the kitchen. "I expect you back up here in an hour to prepare for the noon meal." Gus walked out of the kitchen to the grub hall. The tables were set and waiting for the next meal to be served. "That's sure a lot of food to cook every day," he thought to himself. Mom really was surprised to hear I worked in the kitchen. For a moment he felt guilty about complaints. At home, his mother asked him to take and clean the dishes out of the dishwasher. Outside, sunlight was shining through the woods and the camp, alive with sights and sounds of tree stumps dotted the yard between the buildings. The largest of the wooden buildings had two chimney pipes that stuck out through the roof, belching smoke high up into the air. The air was cool and crisp and smelled like wood burning. Across the yard, out beyond the bunkhouse, was what appeared to be the barn. The wide doors were pulled back, open as far as they could go. "Tommy must be in there," thought Gus. For a camp in a huge forest, this is sure a noisy place, thought Gus. He listened to the sound of the chopping, echoing and ringing through the woods. He heard the shouts of men, rattling and banging the chains and the equipment, and the mooing of the cattle and the growling. Gus was startled again. Around sound that he had heard that night that he sat down. Turning slowly around, he saw a big, hairy, black creature standing on two legs, pulling hard against a chain that was attached to the tree. "Wow, it's a bear!" Gus stopped and stared. "Ah, so you've met our friend Napoleon," called a familiar voice. Turning, Gus could see Tommy standing in the open bar door. He was wearing his leather apron over his clothes and the big leather gloves. "I've been corking Dick to get ready for the winter." Gus looked puzzled. "You know, putting spikes in his shoes so he doesn't go sliding around on the icy roads. The snow will be here soon enough, and then the ice. I don't want to take any chances with me boys. They're the best team of horses I've ever had." Tommy walked over to where Gus was standing and pulled off one of his leather gloves, reaching under his apron into the pocket. Tommy brought out a broken biscuit left over from breakfast. "Here, give this doorknob to Napoleon. The push wouldn't let Addie feed him more than once a day, and he's always hungry. Napoleon here, like Miss Addie's cooking as much as I do." Gus took the biscuit from Tommy and slowly approached the bear near the end of the chain, and he called out to Gus in low grunts and growls, straining to reach the food. "Nothing to be afraid of, boy," said Tommy, walking up beside Gus and took the biscuit from his hand. "Here, like this." Reaching out in the black bear, Tommy dropped the crumbly biscuit into the open mouth and patted his head. The bear's jaws playfully swatted at Tommy, and his long pink tongue licked at Tommy's hand. "Don't let the push see you feeding Napoleon, or we will both be in trouble. He thinks the bear eats too much as it is." "How did Napoleon get here? Is he a pet?" "A pet in a lumber camp? Ha! There's no such thing. Why, a pet would starve to death around here with all these hungry men. No, this here bear is an obligation. It was found early spring when the land was being surveyed and the 40 acres to be cut. The big push wounded its mother by accident in the woods and had to finish her off. He didn't realize that she had a cub until it was too late. The push allows him here because of killing his ma. But now that the winter months are coming, he'll be turned loose into the woods to find a den to sleep in the winter. You see the chain around his neck? I pounded it out for him. I'm to keep him out of trouble." "You made that chain out of metal?" "Red hot metal over the forge. I'll show you how it's done sometime." "That's really neat," said Tommy. I've never seen a real bear before. Where I'm from, there haven't been bears around for a long time. Tell me, boy, just where are you from? Where's your ma and pa?" Gus thought for a long time, trying to find a way to explain what had happened to him. I don't know how to explain it. It must be a long way from here. I don't even know how I got here, and my dad isn't around anymore, since my mother has to work all the time. I see. Well, there's no explaining family trouble. Don't be worrying about it. As long as you do your work around here, you got a place for your head. Tommy patted Gus on the back. Come on now, let me make some introductions to Dick and Jim. Gus followed Tommy back to the barn. Once inside, he took a minute for Gus's eyes to get used to the dim light, but then he could see clearly. There standing before him were the two of the biggest horses he'd ever seen. "They're huge," said Gus. "I've never seen such big horses in my life." "They're draught horses from Iowa, a team of dapple grays. When you put them in their dresses, they show you their weight into the collar, and then you can pull 5 times your weight. The push wanted me to use the oxen here in the woodhouse because of the bad roads. But I'm a horseman. I always been a horseman. That's why I'm always checking and surveying the land, the path, the tote roads with Napoleon showed up. I needed land that would make a flat, smooth road for the horses. You see, oxen are slow, steady beasts, sure-footed though, and they won't slip on frozen sod or rough roads. But those animals are as dumb as spit. Now take a team of horses weighing in at a ton. You can pull the 3 times the load as an oxen. And a team of intelligent horses trained the way these woods are uncanny things to watch. They can pull a sled loaded with logs to the riverbank, keep their eyes on the road, and know their trail home again, and have not dropped any of their logs. You know, boy, you should feel lucky to be Irish, 'cause I don't let just anyone around my horses, especially Canucks and Frenchmen." "Why not them?" asked Gus. "Because the barn boss, or a teamster, that's what they call me job, has to have the patience of a saint and a quiet disposition to work with animals. It's rare to find a man like that. Horses like the Irish and big bosses like Irish teamsters, because we don't wear out as many whips on their backs. I wish I could work out here with you instead of Alex. You want to be a barn boy and leave Miss Addie with the good-for-nothing Alex? That wouldn't be very gentlemanly of ya. Now would it? That Miss Addie, now she's an Irish lassie if I ever saw one. She's a lady in the camp of men. She needs looking after, and that's why it's good to have you in the cook shack with her." "I suppose you're right," said Gus. "Well, maybe if you catch on to the work around the shack, I'll steal you from Miss Addie for a while this winter to work with a blue jay." "Blue jay? What's that?" "A blue jay, a road monkey, or a hayman on the hill. It's a fellow that works the ice roads to keep them slick and smooth." Gus scrunched up his face and patted the horse Jim. "It's getting late now, boy. I want to show you the bunkhouse before Addie needs you again. After the grub this evening, you'll be moving into the bunkhouse," where Tommy opened the bunkhouse door, and a striped cat flew out between their feet. "I thought you said there were no pets in the camp." "Oh, there's Betty. She ain't no pet either. She smells out the rats around here. Do you see she's only has 3 legs? She got caught in the wolf trap chasing after some vermin. She's a scrapper, that one." "She can really run after only having 3 legs?" said Gus. "Despite her troubles, she needs no coddling. And she hunts down a rat. She's like a tiger-striped wildcat, killing her own food, keeping the rodents out of the shacks. I wish she had a liking for body lice." Tommy laughed as he pushed Gus through the door into the bunkhouse. The bunkhouse was a long wooden building with a few windows up high. It was dim because the lamps weren't lit. What Gus could see and smell, however, wasn't very inviting. Double-decked bunks filled with straw and heavy blankets lined the walls. A bench ran alongside them. Tommy stood on the bench with a long pole and reached up high to the ceiling where there was a trap door in the roof. He propped it open, letting some fresh air and sunshine in. At each end of the room, Gus could see large pot-belly stoves with huge pots of steaming water sitting on them. Above the stove racks, there were a few pairs of dirty socks and wet mittens hanging from them. Home sweet home, Tommy laughed. This sure doesn't smell too sweet. Why can't I just sleep where I slept last night? That room is reserved for businessmen and those off their feed. You're a worker man now. You bed with the rest of us. Gus looked around the room. There was an old table with big tubs of dirty water, broken pieces of mirrors that were stuck up along the shelf, and old leather strap hung along the wall. That's where you wash up, Tommy pointed. Piles of old magazine checkerboards, some bottles were scattered at the benches. Not as nice as the room you got now, boy, but it'll do. It stinks in here, said Gus as he tried to breathe the rancid air through his mouth. Well, that's why they say there's so much fresh air up there in the North Woods. The Jacks keep all the stinking air in the bunkhouse, laughed Tommy. If you think it smells bad now, just wait till all these men get in here. They've been working in the woods all day. Boys swinging their axe, their socks are wet, their boots are steaming, and they have been chawing, cut a piece of chewing tobacco all day. It's not a pretty smell. Don't they take baths? Asked Gus. Sure, at the end of one season. I heard tell of a bark eater that once took a bath halfway through the season. He gave himself a real scrubbing with a wire brush and a lye soap. You know what? They found him dead the next morning. It appears that he scrubbed off the top crust of dirt, leaving himself exposed to germs. He caught his death and was gone just like that. Do you believe that? Do you, Tommy? Asked Gus. You call me a liar, boy? Tommy asked Gus, was not sure how to take all this. No, Tommy, I just never heard anything like that before. If you keep your ears open, you'll hear a lot more. Tommy reached into the crude cabinet and pulled out an old, heavy green wool blanket. Here, this balloon's for you. Your muzzle loader is over there by mine. Gus gave Tommy a funny look. What's a muzzle loader? A bunk, boy. A bunk that you load in from the end like a gun. Don't you know nothing? Now, before you come in tonight, make sure you bring in some swamp grass from the barn to sleep on. It'll make your rest easier. What's swamp grass? Gus almost hated to ask. Hey! You're sure a dandy. You don't know nothing about wood life. Tommy seemed disappointed in Gus. Better be getting back to Addie before she has your hide holding you for work. Tommy reached up and pulled the pole from the sky door, letting it slam shut with a bang. Gus threw his blanket onto the bunk above Tommy's and left the bunkhouse to go back to the kitchen.